Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Pleasure to have you here with us in London for the film festival. Maybe you could just begin with a brief introduction, tell us a bit about Culprits and a bit about your roles in making it.
I'm Blakeson. I am the writer, a director, and the showrunner of Culprits.
And I'm Garrett, and I'm the executive producer. And this began when I bought the rights to a book some years ago called Culprits: The Heist Was Just the Beginning. And Jay and I tried to make a movie together a few years back. We liked each other. The movie didn't happen. Somebody's just died behind us. And so the first person I thought of when I said who should write and direct this was Jay Blakeson. And here's Jay Blakeson.
And much like the title of the book explains, this sort of starts after the heist finishes. So the heist is just the beginning of the story. So this is a crime thriller where a few years ago there was a robbery committed by a group of people, and now they're all scattered across the world in new lives, trying to forget about what they did with new identities. And then at the beginning of the film, the show, we see that there's a danger coming towards them, and they discover that, and that throws them out of their everyday lives and on this adventure and mission to try and sort it out, basically. And it's a sort of a zigzaggy, twisty, edge of your seat, compelling cinematic TV show.
And of course, you know, when you're adapting something from, you know, the page to the screen, there's always going to be some elements that are going to be lost, something you can bring. What was that process like?
So it's a very loose adaptation, so much so that it's basically just based on the central concepts and the actual sort of stories within, because the book is an anthology of short stories, which are sort of loosely connected, and we wanted a much more sort of coherent story. And when Stephen sent me, he sent me like a 2-3 page outline of the central concept of the book. I immediately started riffing on that before I even got a chance to look at the book. And so I sort of went off in a direction which was very different from the book even before the book was even on the table, really. So that got Stephen excited, that got me excited, and so we sort of went that way and was using the book really as just sort of like a starting point of a concept of how to do it. So that adaptation made it very easy because I didn't have to be. It wasn't like adapting Harry Potter. It wasn't like a book that was beloved to lots of people. I'm sure it's beloved to the fans of it, but this is a sort of a different thing inspired from the concept of this anthology.
And an amazing cast you put together. Did you already have people in mind? How did you decide on who was going to be in the cast? And how did you work with them?
I don't write with anybody in mind because that just leads to utter disappointment by the time you go and make it, because you just don't know if they're available or if they want to do it or that sort of thing. So you just write the characters, you see them, and then you do it. You know, there's sort of no magic and a lot of magic in casting. That it's you do lists of people you like, and then there's people who are available, and there's people you've not heard of. You look at materials, and then you really need to find like a central sort of linchpin. And in this one, it's the character of Joe, who is like our central character, who's played by Nathan Stewart Jarrett. And so we took a long time and a huge amount of care to make sure we got that right. And Nathan is, you know, a phenomenal actor, and he's brilliant in the series, and we got a great stroke of luck that he was available and wanted to do it. And then once he was in place, it's about building the ensemble around that character. So, and thinking about making sure everybody's in the same show. And then you just make lists of actors that kind of fit the character, but also people you really want to work with are hugely talented. So I'd worked with Gemma Arterton before on a film, and we'd always wanted to work again together, and it'd been like 10 years or so since we worked together. And luckily she really wanted to do it, so it was great to get her back again because she's a phenomenal actress. And then there's people I hadn't worked with before, like Neve Argar and Kirby, both of whom I really loved their work, and it was so great to have them come in and have a look at the material and sort of to build our ensemble. And we got very lucky with the actors because they all came together and all really worked really well together and builds like a show which has a very distinct flavour to it that they all sort of contribute to. Yeah.
And one other thing on the casting, I think, and she knows this because she came to us quite late in the day, but the character that Eddie Izzard plays was very different to the character that was written and the character in our heads. And I think that often happens where you get a sort of an evolution almost of the writing process, where a piece of casting comes along that radically reinterprets everyone's vision in a thrilling way. So casting can be rather than having a set idea of who should be a particular cast can bring something else to the table, and usually does, that is additive, and it's fabulous.
Tell us a bit about the shoot. What were some of the highlights on set, but maybe some of the
I'll
challenges
start
along the
with
way?
some of the lowlights, and then Jay can talk about the highlights. So the lowlight was that we were shooting for 133 days through COVID and lockdown. So we were all masked. When we had the cast and crew screening the other day, I didn't recognize half the people because I'd never seen the lower half of their faces, ever. So everyone's tested every day, and you wake up every morning, if you're producing, thinking, who've we got today? Who's dead? Who's very ill? Can we make our day?
Thankfully, nobody's dead.
Nobody dead. But it's, all I can say is somewhat tense. Now to Jay for the highlights. He loves highlights.
I mean, for me, the highlight's always working with good actors, who, especially because on the material that I wrote, when you get two good actors together doing a scene that you wrote on your own in a room, and suddenly it comes alive and like the magic happens. That for me is like the really sweet stuff. And we shot a scene that's in the first episode in Tate Britain. We shoot in the room with all the Mark Rothko paintings, which is like. Those paintings are like very special to me from growing up. When I first came to London, I remember going to see them, when I was penniless and wanting to work in the film industry. And so to be in there with two great actors, really out acting each other off the screen with these amazing paintings around us, like after hours, it was such a treat to do that. But another thing is like this show's set across 7 different countries, so we shot in 4 different countries, and getting to work with different crews in different countries and having such a huge scope of locations and huge sort of different flavors and different colors in our palette that we could use to make this show feel like huge and cinematic. I mean, that for me was just exciting, turning up every day and we're in a different place, and it's radically different from the last place we're in, and it just looks amazing. And our production designer Victor and our cinematographer Philip and our costume designer Ian, they all did such an amazing job getting this unique sort of look to the show, so that every day, when you kind of go to a location and imagine what it might be, it's one thing, but then when everybody's done their work and you turn up on the day and it just kind of like, it has that extra little bit of magic, and then you put the actors into it, it just sort of like comes alive. And for me, that's always exciting, no matter how much I do it and how many days I shot.
And in terms of the look and feel of it, were you sort of working off any particular references in terms of other, whether it's films or TV shows within the genre, or was it kind of something you're sort of riffing off in your own ideas?
I mean, I'm a real cinephile, so I'm sort of like always going to have lots of influences because I grew up loving movies, and recently there's been like so many good TV shows that have sort of set the bar higher and higher and higher. So you always want to meet or beat that bar. And so, obviously we're dealing with like an element of a heist movie, and there's so many amazing heist movies, and I've seen, so many of them, from like really old ones like Rafifi or even like The Great Train Robbery, one of the first silent movies was a heist movie, up to the classics like Heat or Thief or Ocean's 11 or Reservoir Dogs, up to more recent ones that they've all got like different elements that people find recognizable, and people are surprised by it, but it's sort of using all of that sort of rich history of the genre to sort of tap into sometimes or subvert at other times. Sort of visually, because we're in 3 different time zones across the show that are intercut, we really wanted to differentiate them, and so we shot with different lenses, and we shot with different color palettes and so like in the production design, in the costumes, and in the way that the image looks, we're very careful to use color and texture to sort of delineate these time zones. So there's a lot of pre-production. We put a lot of effort and a lot of time into trying to get that right, and go down some really sort of nerdy rabbit holes of like pictures on the walls of I have lots of photographers photos on the walls and lots of references from films up everywhere, and so it's just a good common language to talk about.
I think I'm almost out of time, but what do you hope people will take away from watching the show?
What do people take away from watching the show, Steve?
They will take away the boredom and emptiness of their lives, because they will have been richly entertained. They will feel that this is 8 hours well spent, and that whatever they're paying for their subscriptions this month, they will not want to churn.
I think also they'll take away the fact that Nathan is an amazing actor. I think he's absolutely transformative in this. You've not seen him like this before in anything, and he's a real, this is like a real moment for him. He's a real find in this role, and it's just really exciting for me that people are going to get to see that performance and get to really rediscover him as such an exciting, talented actor.
One other thing.
One other thing.
And if Barbara Broccoli is looking for the next Bond director, she should look no further.
You're going to direct Bond.
And just very finally, what does it mean to you to have the show here at London Film Festival? And I guess it's a testament to the fact that shows like this, can sit side by side with cinema, because there's a lot of cinematic elements to it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a huge honour to be asked to come and play the show at the film festival, because when you're making a show, you're never thinking that it's going to be on at a film festival, because it's not a film, but they have this very small amount of shows that they invite, and so I feel really privileged and lucky that they chose ours, to be one of, from all the TV shows around the world, they chose ours to be one of the ones that they're going to put on the big screen. And it's so great to see it on a big screen, because normally with a TV show, even though TVs are pretty big, they're not as big as cinema, so it's a real joy to see it projected with the big sound system, but also to watch it with a crowd, because you don't get to see people watching TV in their own homes unless it gets on Gogglebox or something. You can't sneak into people's homes and watch your show, so you don't. I mean, you can try, but you just get little dribs and drabs from social media, and people saying, "Oh, I saw your show, I really liked it," but to actually see in the room them react to the moments and have them jump at the jumps or gasp at the twists, that's that's real magic for a filmmaker, and it's such a thrill that we get to experience that, and my home festival, which is such a which I come to anyway, even if I'm not in it. So no, it's a fantastic honour and privilege to be here.
And it feels like it's a great time for TV, actually.
Yeah, it is a great time for TV. I mean, the actors' strike right now isn't a great time for TV, but apart from that, we have TV has got such a quality to it that you can move between film and television without any judgment at all. When I first started out, films were seen as one thing and TV was seen as sort of a lesser thing, whereas now it's just a different opportunity for storytelling. And if you want a longer form, story that you want to tell, that you want to delve into sort of some more characters and more moments, and you don't want it just to have 2 hours, then TV is great place to explore. But I love movies as well, so if you have that 2-hour thing, go make a movie. So it's great that we're great as a filmmaker that you can move backwards and forth, but great as a viewer that you're getting such good TV because people are moving backwards and forwards. Great TV directors go to film and back again, and vice versa. So no, very exciting.
I think it's worth saying too that because Jay is a filmmaker at heart, and this is a closed-ended story. This is not a series where when you get to the end you'll feel it hasn't quite resolved because they're setting it up for season 2. There is no season 2. This begins, has a middle, ends, and hopefully the audience is really satisfied.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with me, and really enjoyed presenting it here in London.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
very
a
much.
lot, guys.